Well, hello there trainers, greetings, KuroBlitz here and welcome back to another video. Today it's September 18th and it marks the 14-year anniversary of Pokemon Black and White video games. And with that, I would like to bring to you another what if, another hypothetical, that being of what if Ash Ketchum had revisited the Unova region and therefore re-challenged the Unova League for a second time. I really hope you are excited for the video. Make sure to stay tuned for more and subscribe for more episodes like this. Without further ado, let's get our new journey started. Let's go! Upon arriving to the Unova region, I can imagine Ash re-meeting the former champion Alder in the lookout of Aspertia City, and here I think this is where Ash would basically talk about Alder when it comes to being the monarch of the world, being the new champion and all of that, and Alder would try to give him some words of wisdom of what he could do. And Ash now sporting a new gear, a new attire, it would be amazing for him to basically cover his yips, cover his low season that he had in the Unova region. So basically going back to the game, and I feel like when it comes to Ash here, he would basically have like a new mentality in terms of challenging Unova again, and just for the fun of it. And I feel like Alder would be the one to give him an egg Pokemon that it would be very important for later. But before that, I feel like when it comes to Ash and Alder, they would have a continuation of the battle that they didn't really finish in Rival Destinies, that being Pikachu against Bouffalant. However, when it comes to this battle, something amazing and new would happen, because just having Ash return to Unova without any powerful mechanics or whatever, I think it would be very naked when it comes to mechanics and battles and gimmicks and whatever more. So I'm going to introduce Terastalization in Unova when it comes to Ash revisiting the region, and therefore I'm going to Terastalize Alder's Bouffalant into a pure water type, and therefore he would be able to use Surf, and Ash, now sporting a new Terra Orb, he would Terastalize Pikachu as well, and this Pokemon would be a Stellar Terra type, and the battle would continue. It would end, of course, and this is where I would like for the journey to continue and prosper, as Ash and Alder would leave the lookout and therefore go to the actual Aspertia City. In Aspertia City, this is where Ash would re-meet two of his rivals, that being of Virgil and Bianca. Virgil and Bianca, for this adventure, they would be Ash's new travel companions, and when it comes to Virgil's team, I'm going to give him Eevee, as well as the Kanto and the Johto evolutions, and when it comes to Bianca, the Pokemon that I decided to give her are Michino, Sandshrew, Munna, Whimsicott, Excavalier, and Emboar. So she gets the three Pokemon that she had in Best Wishes, as well as the other rodent mouse Pokemon to basically be a parallel to Pikachu and Brown like Eevee, and she gets the Munna that she has from the games, and she would have a Whimsicott because it's the only fairy type that it could work in nowadays Unova. Meanwhile, as for Ash Ketchum, the Pokemon that he would bring to Unova besides Pikachu, it would be Boldore, Scraggy, Oshawott, and Snivy. And when it comes to the egg, I feel like the egg would basically eventually hatch into a Larvesta, that being a Pokemon that Alder would give to Ash. There's like a lot of significance here. For all that we know, because Alder is sporting Bouffalant, maybe because the Volcarona that he had, maybe that Volcarona died, and therefore it's basically Ash carrying the last offspring of that said Volcarona. I think it will be very important. And without further ado, I feel like this is the time where Ash would face his first Unova gym during this rerun, and that's going to be against the Scholar of the Academy of Aspertia, that being Charon. When it comes to facing Charon, the Pokemon that I have for him, I decided to give Zangoose, Chinchino, and Stoutland, with Ash using, Scraggy, Snivy, and Oshawott. And during this battle, this is when Ash's Oshawott having a rematch against the Herdeer that it's now a Stoutland, he would evolve into a Duat, and by learning the move Revenge, being a fighting type move, this is when Duat would finally get the win and give Ash the other set of the basic badge, therefore having another badge for the Unova region. Now, when it comes to the continuation of the story, Ash would not have a battle against Roxy again. Instead of going to Verbank, Ash would go to Flocesi Town. And in Flocesi Town, this is where Ash would battle the new gym leader of the place, that being one of the former students of the Blueberry Academy and a former member of that league's Elite Four, being Crispin. Crispin would use Rotom Heat, Camerupt and Magmortar, while Ash would use Larvesta, Scraggy and Boldor, and during this time, this is when I can see Scraggy fully evolving into a Scrafty and maybe learn the move Head Smash because it's a rock type move and it would be super effective against Magmortar, and this is where Ash would get his second Unova badge. And this is where a caveat when it comes to the character of Alder takes place. Since Ash is a champion now, a world champion, and he's rechallenging a league, for every 2 badges that he has, he needs to prove himself against a member of the Unova Elite Four, and this is where the extra challenges come into play, because Ash would visit the Pledge Grove to face Elite Four member Caitlyn, the Psychic type expert and the former frontier brain of the Sinnoh region. When it comes to Caitlyn's Pokemon, the one that I decided to give her are Grumpig, Hypno, Sigilyph, Metagross, Gardevoir and Gothitelle. And on Ash's side, it would be Pikachu, Leavanny, Crocodile, Duat, Talonflame and Incineroar. So when it comes to Ash's side, I have the 2 Pokemon, the powerhouses of Unova, to test their muscle against the Unova Elite Four. They would return in the form of Leavanny and Crocodile, and Duat would still be around to basically be a big play when it comes to this battle, and I have the firepower of both Kalos and Alola being of Talonflame and Incineroar, which contribute amazingly for this battle, and therefore Ash would basically have proven his champion worth and therefore get a medal for all of his aspiration and tribute. And with that, Ash would go to Verbank City, but instead of battling Roxy, he's going to participate in another Don George level tournament and face a lot of opponents down the way, with the one that he fights in the end being Bianca. He is now travel companion, and Bianca, yes, as I mentioned before, she is sporting her black to and white 2 attire. And as for the rounds of this tournament, Ash would use Kingler, Snorlax and Scrafty for the battles, and after that, I feel like when it comes to getting the boat to Castilia City, this is where Ash is going to fight a new gym leader besides Berg, basically a minor division gym leader, and that would be the daughter of Lenora, that being the gym leader Amaris. And Amaris would have steel type Pokemon, that being of Skarmory, Caesar and Empoleon, with Ash sporting Pikachu, Scrafty and Duat. There will be terrestrialization in these gym battles and in these Don George tournaments and even in the elite assessments. I'm not just visually showing it all the time, but just for you to have a reference, that is what happens. And with that, Ash would get 3 out of the 8 badges for the Pokemon League, and after going across the Desert Resort in Route 4 in the north and passing the Join Avenue, this is where Ash would, re-meet Elisa. And he's going to have a rematch with Elisa, and Elisa is going to use Stunfisk, Galvantula, and Eelektross. And yes, Eelektross is the fully evolved Dynamo that Ash battled with Pikachu. And Ash is going to use Pikachu again, and he's going to use Boldor and Snivy. In this battle, Snivy is going to evolve into a Servine, and therefore give Ash the 4th badge for the Unova League, therefore making his way half through when it comes to that challenge. There would be a brand new challenge in terms of a Don George tournament, this time in Nimbasa City instead of being in Nimbasa Town, and it would be in the newly founded Battle Institute, and this is where Ash basically sees Emmett of the Battle Subway, as well as his new apprentices, that being of, Rosa and Hilda. And these are the characters that Ash would basically battle in the tournament, and therefore, besides Pikachu on his side, he would use Bulbasaur, Swallow, and Duat. And therefore, he would basically win a tournament or reach the finals of the tournament, depending on how you want to put it. Would he battle Emmett, Hilda, or Rosa? I'm going to leave it for you to decide, so let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, this is when Ash basically gets his second elite assessment. That being in the Lost Lawn Forest against the Ghost type Elite Four, being Chantal. Against Chantal, she's going to use against Ash Jellicent, Golurk, Chandelure, Banette, Driftblim, and Mismagius, with Ash pulling up Pokemon such as Pikachu, Pignite, Palpitoad, Servine, Lycanroc, and Melmetal. The last two being super powerful Pokemon from the Alola region. Servine, it's going to still put in the work after evolving against Elisa, and we have the other Unova powerhouses in their middle stage evolution to assist Pikachu in getting the win, that being of Palpitoad and Pignite. And with all of the Nimbasa and all of their adjacent and outskirts out of the way, this is where Ash would get a train to Anvil Town to participate in another Don George tournament, that being where he would re-meet with his former companion Cilan, the now S-rank class connoisseur, and in order to defeat Cilan, he is going to use Pokemon such as Torkoal, Servine, and Tauros, and therefore blitz his way to the competition. But just like how he lost to Bianca in the first finals of a Don George tournament, he would now lose to Cilan, but he would basically, be more apprehensive and more collected when it comes to, being a Pokemon master. And with that, Ash would return to mainland Unova and therefore go to Driftville City after crossing the drawbridge, and this is where Ash is going to meet the daughter of Clay, that being Lacey. And Lacey is the first expert of Fairy-type Pokemon in the Unova region, and therefore, against Ash, she is going to use Mawile, Granbull, and Azumarill, with Ash being fully prepared with using his Larvesta, Duat, and Servine. Against the fairies, Ash is going to use the Fire Water Grass core, very important to note. And with that, and due to the passage of time, this is where Ash is going to re-meet Iris. Because Iris also wants to, conquer, her fear of Ice type by trying to, make friends with the former Ice type of the cold storage of Driftville City, which now is a world tournament venue, the one where Lance won in Pokemon Journeys, and she also wants to learn more about fairy types because they weren't commonplace in Unova when they traveled. And knowing Lacey, there is a perfect bonus to this, given how Clay had Landorus. Well, it didn't have Landorus, but given how Clay had Ash meet Landorus, if you want for Lacey to know Enamorus here and you want to do an Enamorus arc, go for it. Honestly, this is a last minute thought, I think it would just be amazing. And Ash would re-meet Iris, and I think it would be very cool if they had a 3v3 fight to see how things are going, because she wants to prove to the people that she is worthy of being champion and succeeding Alder. So, against Iris, because she was the one that, pitched Alder the idea of Ash doing the elite assessments between the gym challenge, Iris is going to battle Ash on, a 3v3, but it's more of a best 2 out of 3 if anything, like how Paul did with Ash. We are going to have Pikachu against Emolga. I think this is a very safe battle, and therefore they would, retreat. It doesn't really matter the result, this is just a battle for the fun of it. And I feel like, after the 2 electric rodents, we will need a battle when it comes to, the 2 massive pure dragon Pokemon, being of, the powerhouse Kudra and the powerhouse that being Haxorus. One is a pseudo-legendary, the other is not. I feel like, Kudra returning to basically battle Haxorus, it would be very cool. And this is the battle that's really important, being Excadrill versus Buizel, the mole versus the weasel. And this is where I think that a great thing could happen, because Excadrill, even with the type disadvantage, it would be destroying Breezel a lot, and it would force Breezel to evolve. And this is where Ash gets Floatzel, and therefore Iris would Terastalize Excadrill into a Dragon type, and this is where Ash decides to Terastalize Floatzel as well to try to get the win. And hold and behold, Ash's Floatzel is an Ice type, and with Ice Punch and Ice Aqua Jet, it would destroy the Dragon Excadrill. It would cause a cold and a shiver to Iris' spine, and this is where Ash gets a legit win on Iris, which is going to, make her become stronger, become better as a champion, as Ash's journey in Unova is now yet to be continued. And it will. As for the second half of this journey, I feel like, when it comes to Ash, I feel like he would go to Mistralton, but he would get a plane to Lantimus Town. And in Lantimus Town, he would meet Lenora, who would act as an honorary 6th gym, given how Sharon regave Ash a basic badge, like how Wallace did with the Rain One instead of Juan. And now Lenora would test Ash as a rock expert, having the fossils of Archeops and Caracosta and the bug Pokemon being of Krusk. Which means that Ash would try to go with the advantage of, using a Water Duat and the fighting Scrafty, but he would also use Boldor. But because of the unique magnetism and the unique circumstances of Lantimus Town, he would not need any trade machine to order to make his Boldor become a Gigalith. This is where Ash would get a Gigalith, and it would defeat Lenora's Crustle and therefore get a win and get his 6th badge. I was considering the idea of Lenora having a Terra Watchog, but I don't think there's really a need to that. Which means that for the 3rd Elite Assessment, Ash would fight Marshall, the former disciple of Alder, in the Reversal Mountain, and the Marshall team that I decided to give are Sock, Throw, Ariyama, Breloom, Medicham, and Toxicroak. And therefore, Ash, besides using Pikachu, he would fight the Fighting with Flying, bringing up his powerhouse Pokemon of Charizard, Unpeasant, Rowlet, Hawlucha, and Noivern, and therefore get an easy win. But things would start getting complicated, because even though Reversal Mountain is meant to lead to Undella Town, because the kids get lost all the time in the anime, they would go to Opalucid. Instead of going to the east, they would go to the north, and this is where they meet Drayden. And for the 7th batch, Ash is going to battle Drayden, unlike he did in the original canon. Now, against Drayden, he is going to use Druddigon, Flygon, and Salamence, with Ash using Pikachu, Larvesta, and Servine. And Larvesta is going to evolve into a Volcarona, and this is where Drayden sees, the burning passion that Alder had back in the day. And even with Servine around being a reptilian, a draconic looking Pokemon, it would make sense for it to have, and therefore Ash gets his 7th gym badge of Unova. Which means there's only one more badge that he needs to get, and he knows where to go. He's going to fight the one person that Cameron battled for the 8th badge, that being Marlon of Humilao City. But before that, there is a pit stop that he needs to attend, that being of the Village Bridge. And given how he had a close match with Iris, and he battled Bianca and Cilan in Don George tournaments, and even met Hilda Rosa and Emmett, now it's the time in the Village Bridge where Ash has to go against his companion, being Virgil. And when it comes to Virgil, since he never battled the guy, now it's going to be the time where he battles the guy and he wins. Because in this tournament, Ash is going to use his Squirtle, Muk, and Staraptor. And we do have, the Pikachu versus Eevee battle that we were robbed of, and this is where, Ash basically wins. He wins this. Maybe he wins against Bianca, he ties with Cilan or whatever, like the results really don't matter for the other ones, but for this one it's important that Ash wins, because it means that he's defeating the guy that won a prior Virtus Conference League. But now, going back to, the city of Umilao, all of the other gym matches were 3v3s while the assessments were 6v6s. But now, for Marlon, his battle is going to be a 6v6, because it's the final batch. This is the final threshold for Ash before the Unova Pokemon League. And with that, Marlon is going to give it his all out. He's going to have a battle that Ash wished he had with Misty. Marlon is going to utilize a Lomomola, Huntail, Wailord, Mantine, Wishcash, and Jellicent, with Ash using his newly found Unova team of Pikachu, Duat, Servine, Volcarona, Scrafty, and Gigalith. And in this battle, yes, Servine is going to fully evolve into a Superior and therefore give Ash the win, and the Wave Badge has his final 8 for this Unova count. But there is a big problem happening. We see something in the horizon and a looming crisis that now Ash has to face. As we all know, Ash arrested Team Plasma as well as Colress and Ghetsis. But there are people that he never met and they are continuing to be a threat to Unova, that being the original Team Plasma. We see the Plasma Frigate on the port of Umilao town. And with that, we do see, the Shadow Triad trying to, ambush Ash. And Ash gets the assist of the final Elite Four member, that being Grimsley. And Grimsley knows of Ash about his Alola Champion League win. He helps Ash. Ash has his Scorfish with him, but due to a last-minute effort, he finally evolves Scorfish into a Crawdaunt, and he's able to defeat the Shadow Triad. But before the Plasma Frigate basically goes into a shore, there is someone who joins in order to, help Ash. And this is Professor Burnett. But this is not the Professor Burnett that Ash knows from Alola, but he has an alternate timeline version of Professor Burnett. Someone who was studying the Dream World and Team Plasma basically tried to scout for, and now she wants to, get Kyurem and other Pokemon to try to reach boundaries of the multiverse in order to return home. And Ash, basically seeing this doppelganger of the secondary mom, he kind of wants to help her out. And this is where, even Grimsley tells Ash that as a Unova Elite Four, he doesn't really want to battle him. He already helped evolve his Pokemon. He just wants to retire and make Sharon the successor when it comes to being Elite Four, and Ash understands that. But there is a bigger crisis to be dealt with besides the Shadow Triad. That being of, Zinzolin, a former sage of Team Plasma. He has a Godstone. He wants to create a new original dragon from the Dreamworld research that Burnett provided, and therefore reawaken Kyurem. Ash and the others pilot the Plasma Frigate to the Giant Chasm, where Ash meets Zinzolin and therefore needs to stop his plan. Zinzolin is an Ice Master. Zinzolin has all 6 Ice-type Pokemon from the Sinnoh region, that being of Glaceon, Rotom-Frost, Abomasnow, Frostlass, Weavile, and Mamoswine. And Ash wants to prove a point to this guy by showing him the power of the new frontier, using his Johto Pokemon to deal with the crisis, given how his Unova ones got hurt. And they were transferred because of this version of Professor Burnett. Ash is using Heracross, Noctowl, Totodile, Quilava, and Bayleaf. And in this skirmish, Totodile evolves into a Croconaw, and Ash is able to defeat Zinzolin, and therefore have all of the middle stage evolution of their Johto starters. In the midst of the Giant Chasm, this is where Ash and the other companions, being of Bianca and Virgil, they do re-meet Anne. And they do re-meet Anne, and Anne is finally in his castle, in his former chamber, and now he's resting with Reshiram. And this is where Ash reunites with the Zekrom that he met in the first episode of Pokemon Black and White, and there is a battle to prepare Ash for the League, but we don't really see the result of this fight. It's just, very implied. But yeah, this is just, something that I wish that it could happen, and it's very open-ended, and therefore this is where Ash prepares himself to go to the Unova League. So while on the victory road, I feel like Ash would re-meet Cameron, and I can see Pikachu defeating Hydreigon, not Lucario, so Cameron would now lose in the 1v1 preliminaries in the top 128. Which means that in terms of the double battles for the top 64 and 32, this is where Ash would bring up his Pignite and Palpitoad to battle against two random trainers, and they would fully evolve into Emboar and Seismitoad. This is where I think, the whole crux of the story would really need to start to happen. So Ash's first 3 rounds are very easy. It's in the top 16 when he first met Stefan that stuff is going to get complicated, because he's going to have to battle Georgia, Iris's rival, because she also wants to dethrone the champion, and Georgia's team is very anti-dragons. She has Beartic, it's an ice type. She has Rapidash, a horse that knights ride to tame dragons. And she has Bisharp, and Bisharp has an Eviolite, given how we now know of the King Gambit evolution. And Ash is going to utilize these 3 ground types of Sinnoh to defeat Georgia. Being of Torterra, Gliscor and Gible. And Gible is going to prove his worth here by evolving into a Gabite and therefore defeating Georgia. And this is where Georgia, gives her salute to Ash and making sure that he wins the whole thing and defeats Iris on a 6v6 and not just in an exhibition match like how we did in Driftvale City. And Ash promises this to Georgia. And when it comes to, the actual Pokemon League, for the 6v6 matches, the ones that I have here for Ash is basically he battles Drayton in the top 8. He battles Yu in the top 4, and he battles Benga in the finals. And the Pokemon that he would bring would be Pikachu, Donphin, Pidgeot, Glalie, Infernape, and Sceptile. Pokemon that he didn't use yet in his Unova challenge. And would Ash win? Would he lose? Of course Ash is going to win. Ash is going to win. However, because Iris is not around, and because he already proved his worth against her, and because he already did the elite assessment, Ash is going to battle Alder. He's going to battle the professor that was once voiced by the VA of Professor Oak. And Alder's team, personally, the one that I crafted, is very unique. So there's that. Ash is going to battle Alder on Iris's behalf, and Alder, besides using his Buffalant, he's going to use Druddigon, Mandibuzz, Minchao, Cofagrigus, and Reuniclus. He has Druddigon as wrapping for Iris, Mandibuzz for Grimsley, Minchao for Marshall, Cofagrigus for Chantal, and Reuniclus for Caitlyn. And Ash is going to use his team. He's going to use the Volcarona that he used, maybe Volcarona battles Mandibuzz and Pikachu battles Buffalant, and I can see, for example, Duat against Cofagrigus, or maybe against Cofagrigus, Serperior against Reuniclus, Gigalith against, Druddigon, and Scrafty against Minchao. There's a lot of cool matches you can have here, so insert them however you want. And after this, it's Ash's post-game. And during this post-game, I can see Ash going to Black City, and in Black City he will now battle the new Tower Tycoon of the Ebony Tower, being Trip. And against Trip would use against Ash would be Serperior, Vanillux, Conkeldurr, Amphazen, Chandelure, and Scolipede. He would get the Scolipede from the Vanipede of Castilia, there's no need for him to have a Jellicent. And against Trip, in the Ebony Tower of Black City, Ash would use the Journey's team, and I feel like this would be very interesting to see. And after the whole thing at Black City, Ash would go to the White Forest and battle Iris there in the Ivory Tree Hollow. And in the Ivory Tree Hollow, this is where they have the final match Terastal lies, with Stellar Pikachu and Psychic Hexorus, because Iris can read the heart of dragons, she can read the mind, and it had Psycho Cut. So with the Restalization, that just feels very perfect and very fitting. But there you have it, trainers. This is what I would have if Ash had returned to Unova and therefore did the gym challenge yet again. And this is just a celebratory set piece for the 14 years of Pokemon Black and White, so there's that. Make sure to, let me know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like. If you want more of this, make sure to, leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you another time, trainers. Thank you for the support, and KuroBlitz out.